Expecting to hear more on the affordable housing project, how far it has gone so far, the security situation in the country. Remember, the guns are silent in the Rift Valley where there were cattle raids. I am sure he will carry that as one of his achievements. I'm expecting him to address also the abductions of Kenyans that are said to have disappeared or to have been abducted or to have been killed during either during the Gen Z demonstrations, also in other crime-related issues. We're expecting him also to give us the achievement on the health sector, especially when we have moved from the NHIF now to SHA, Social Health Authority, and the SHIF. So I'm expecting him to tell us the challenges perhaps the government has faced, the strengths of the government at the moment in the implementation of the SHA and SHIF. We also expect him to address infrastructure issues in the country, for example, the roads, the plans the government has to address the incomplete road projects in the country. We remember they had promised also to have a rail network in Nairobi, where there was one he launched in Ngong to what do you call this place, to Kibiria somewhere here, that will ease traffic on the Ngong Road. We expect him also to address the challenges facing education system, the CBC system, the achievement in CBC so far, and many other things that perhaps this government is planning to do or has already achieved. We also expect him perhaps to talk about the challenges he faced in the previous his previous deputy president, impeached deputy president Rigathi Gachagua. Perhaps it will be, he could give us a sneak preview of what he was going through. Remember the last address he told us that he had missed somebody they would work closely with. Perhaps in the last 2 or 3 weeks, he has had a new deputy president. Perhaps there are new achievements they have done together. We are also expecting him to tell us about the bills that are in Parliament. Perhaps there are new finance bills that are coming in, supplementary budgets, perhaps, that will help his government to get back on track. We also expect to hear about the climate issue. Remember, he has been a very big climate change crusader in Africa. So we are expecting him to also tell us what the climate change and impact. Remember, he set up a committee the other day to address the Nairobi River rehabilitation. He has also another committee that is checking on the implementation of the government strategies that he told us the other day he has lodged, that will be supervising the government agencies to ensure that his manifesto is fully implemented. Okay. So we expect actually a scorecard from himself to give us a report card of what he has achieved so far. Okay. Yeah.
All right. That being said, let's now cross over to the CBD, or the Central Business District, here in Nairobi, where our reporter is Alan Aoko, who has pitched tent there to try and talk to Kenyans who have who are expecting or have expectations on what the president is going to address. If we can get that link. Alan, if you can hear me.
We are still canvassing businesses and sampling people's opinion of how is the economy today and what do they expect of the State of the Nation address by the president this afternoon. Right now, we have stumbled upon a business, a small business, which we told you earlier, still covers a huge chunk of Kenya's economy. 80% employed in this sector, brings in a lot into the gross domestic product. Perhaps maybe you can start by telling us your name and what you do for business, and how is the economy for you today?
My name is Max Miller, and in business, it is running smoothly. Mostly kuko pole pole, mara ingine kuko vizuri, weather it's good, and kitu ingine yenye ni disadvantages high in taxes high, inatufinyilia like kama sisi tunauza vitu huku. Yeah.
Indeed, this shop is full of antiques and second-hand items, and I'm just curious to ask, what would you like maybe the president to say about the taxes this afternoon? Is there something you'd like him to do about the taxes you've said?
Yeah, kwa tax iko high kama sisi tuna import vitu from outside the country, ashukisha tax at least tusifinyiliwe sana.
All right, thank you very much for speaking to us. There we have it. We've been speaking to a small business owner who has been telling us about the situation of the economy with her business today in Nairobi. Remember, Nairobi is the largest city in Kenya and has the most economic activity. And if you do have a business here in Nairobi, chances are that you are going to experience some unique challenges. We will continue sampling some of these opinions of business owners and Kenyans at large, just to understand the mood of the economy according to the citizenry of this nation. Back to you.
All right, that is Alan Aoko coming to us live from the CBD. And speaking to that business lady, it all paints or comes down to the state of economy. From where you stand, before you even get your sentiments on her, what is your assessment of how we are economically as a country?
Now, economically, we are not doing so well. In as much as they tell us the inflation has dropped from 9% to 2%, the common mwananchi cannot feel it. The Kenyan shilling is not doing so well by doing the necessary circulation because it is so difficult to get a living nowadays. Even though the cost of food production and the cost actually of food commodities in the country have come down. Remember when he took over, the unga was retailing at around 250, right now 93, the highest around 100 shillings. A packet. So we are expecting also the economy to do well, because an economy cannot do well when the common mwananchi doesn't have money in his or her pocket. Perhaps now strategize and prioritize paying the local contractors, because when you pay the local contractors, you ensure that there's money in circulation. Currently, we hear that perhaps the government owes local contractors around 950 billion. That's close to $1 trillion. That amount of money that is not in circulation actually, because it is held by the government. Perhaps prioritize paying the local mwananchi, because if you pay a contractor, they pay the artisans that do the work. They pay even the unskilled workers that perhaps were working with them. And when such things happen, money goes back to the people. And when money goes back to the people are able now to afford the cost of living. And remember, when you pay one person, assuming right now I was to pay somebody who worked for me previously, and perhaps I owe them, let's say, around 200,000. When they use these 200,000, they pay salaries for the other employees. Remember, there are house helps in their houses, there are shamba boys in their compounds, there are other people, the local businessman, the shopkeeper behind there. Perhaps they have debts with those shopkeepers. So this, the lack of funds that circulate, I mean the Kenyan shilling, if it is not circulating well in the country, we are still in murky waters when it comes to economy. I was hearing from a friend of mine who is in Canada. He said the Canadian dollar, before it goes back to treasury, it must have gone through circulation around 9 times before it goes back. Unfortunately, ours, we receive and we pay, it goes back, because for example, if I had a loan with a bank, perhaps if I am paid, I'll pay directly back to the bank, and that money goes back to the national treasury before the end of the day. But we should make sure that this money is there in circulation. The government should also give enough funding, for example, for the youth funds should be there for the youth, women funds should be there for the women, and also businessmen should be able to get incentives from the government to make sure that there are more manufacturing businesses or industries in the country. Unfortunately, ours is more of the primary production. We are not into secondary production. So we are mostly consumers of raw materials rather than consumers of finished products that are made here. And I was thinking in relation to that, the government should give concessions to foreign companies that want to start working in Kenya. For example, the government is the biggest landowner. Actually, at the moment, before the other families that come in, government is the biggest landlord in this country. The government can decide to set up an economic zone whereby investors coming in can come in tax-free, and then when the goods leave the station, that is when they tax them. The way Dubai grew because anything coming into Dubai comes free, but it leaves at a cost. So it will encourage job creation in the country, because when we have more manufacturing industries, we create jobs. But if you have more primary industries, let's take an example of a farmer who has a farm. You will only need one driver for a tractor, for example, if you have 50 acres, one driver who will do the job. Yeah. Yes, and with the farm implements being there, at the end of the day, you have one person. But if we have a factory that is situated in an area, for example, a 1 acre farm, that can employ around 1,000 to 2,000 people. So job creation should be given a priority. And when you hear rumors that there are businesses leaving this country, industries that are leaving this country because of the cost of production, that's bad news. That's bad news. At the same time, we should also create employment here rather than taking our youth out of the country. We are, you know, Mike, when you went to school, under, for example, free primary education, the government of Kenya paid. And not government, it is the taxpayers who paid your school fees. And when you go to work for a foreigner out there and there's no money trickling in, it's a loss for the country. So we need to create jobs here for the workforce that is going out. Yes. But then again, where are we failing in that aspect? If at all we are exporting labor for labor, and yet here we are saying we are creating jobs. Where are we failing in that regard? Now, the Treasury or the Ministry of Finance is failing us a big time, and the legislative arm of government, because every other day they come up with new levies, new taxes, and this hurts businesses. When there is little profit, you will leave that place and go to another place that you will make more profit, because at the end of the day, the main purpose of setting up a business is to earn a profit. If there is no profit, then there's no business. So if you find an industry leaving Kenya to go to a country like Rwanda, leaving Kenya to a country like Tanzania, it is bad news for us. So I don't know who advises our government, because those are the things we should lower rather than think of collecting. Just imagine if we were to give tax incentives to industries, and let's say 1,000 industries come in, each employ 1,000 youth, we have 1 million youth employed. Those people will earn a salary. This salary will be deducted pay as you earn. And that goes back to the government. That's how the government should focus earning its revenue from, rather than taxing the same government. We have seen a situations whereby the Kenya Revenue Authority invades, invades a company because of failure to pay taxes, and the company shuts down. You are sending home around 1,000 people. That is hurting the economy of this country. Rather than try to negotiate with these people, try to give them incentives, tell them, you have failed to pay this, let's say 2 billion, but if you pay 1.5 billion, you'll be given a reprieve for the others. So it's encouraging. Or let's strike a deal. You'll pay this money for how long? These taxes. Let's give you 3 months, let's give you 4 months, let's give you 5 months, or do monthly installments for the next 2 years, so that the business can stay in operation. At the same time, the government earns revenue, and the citizens gain employment. Otherwise, going there with chains and big padlocks to close them down, and you are proud as a tax revenue officer, right there, closed. It means that the revenue collection has gone down. You have already shut down the livelihood of some Kenyans. There should be ways of gaining that in a friendly way, because I can't fail to pay taxes willingly. Sometimes it is because of issues that perhaps I'm going through. I could be making losses instead of, or there could be a calamity that has affected my production, and this should be understood. So I think the government should focus more on attracting investors. And I don't like the idea whereby Kenyans attack any other investor that comes in. The government should also be keen on how investors come in. If it is a tender, it should be well advertised, should be competitive, and we are told there were 10 tenderers that tendered, and Adani won.
Transparency.
For example, transparency, yes. That's what we want.
And taxation has been one of the issues that Kenyans are complaining about. And so how is it going to be used in a manner that Kenyans feel their taxes are being used correctly, and on the other hand, they do not have a problem with any tax that comes along? No,
civil education is very important.
Okay.
People should understand one thing, that the government, any government in the world, runs on taxes. Number two, investment by the government in other areas. For example, if there's an investment opportunity in Ethiopia, for example, our government can go in as an investor and we get profits from the same. The government bonds and the other things. So what we lack right now is, one, transparency. The other day there was a committee that was set up to come up with to tell us how much debt, foreign debt we have, how our economy is doing. That committee is dead and quiet. We don't know what is going on. We would want to know, we owe China this much, and this is how we are repaying. This is how much we are paid, and this is what is remaining. We have gone into agreement with 1, 2, 3, 4 countries. We have this with IMF. Otherwise, when we find statements coming from IMF itself, that is has lent Kenya, and the finance, the cabinet secretary of National Treasury doesn't tell us, we are not aware. But I like the new cabinet secretary in finance, Honorable Mbadi. Honorable Mbadi is truthful. He wants to explain, he lets us know the situation where we are in, unlike before. So I wish he keeps that spirit alive. Let us know the state of our economy. Let us know in figures. Let them show us where we can log in and see. The way I can log into affordable housing and look at the Pangani, for example, the affordable housing in Pangani, there are, let's say, 628 housing units. 324 have been taken. This much are remaining. When I book one, it goes down by one. I realize actually this is working. Because actually in the Bomayangu, that is what is happening. I have had the privilege of doing of going online. In fact, I've saved 200 shillings in it. I was just testing it. Perhaps, you know, if you just rely on social media for information, sometimes you get the wrong information. And I'm begging Kenyans, let's be patriotic enough and be truthful. The way we expect our government to be truthful, let it also be truthful and factual in whatever we post, so that tomorrow we don't create a situation whereby our country is ungovernable. The other day we were discussing with friends, and I told them, if our government fails, it means we have failed.
Exactly.
If it wins, it means we have won. So let us all pray for the government to succeed, because if it fails, it directly hits us. Yes.
Now, you mentioned the CS for Treasury, that is John Bad, and yesterday he said something about the government is considering lowering pay as you earn within a period of 2 years, and also said that we need as a country to discuss how to make overall tax manageable to Kenyans. What do you think about that?
Yeah, pay as you earn is at a high, because I looked at a pay slip, for example, somebody who's earning 80 and goes home with 58. It doesn't make sense that almost half of your money goes to the government. And you can see, okay, it is good to pay taxes. It is good when these taxes are lowered. But will you lower it and still misuse our taxes? Because if I give you 10 shillings, I want to see what this 10 shilling has done. I want to see our roads, state of our roads, the way you can move around Nairobi and go through potholes. When it rains, we have serious accidents happening on our roads because there are gaping potholes that perhaps are unmarked. Nobody cares. Our tunnels are clogged with all kind of litter in this city. And at the end of the day, we ask ourselves, yes, we are paying taxes. Lower that pay as you earn. And there's an advantage in lowering pay as you earn. When you lower pay as you earn, that means there's more money in my pocket to spend. And when I spend this money, the mama mboga down there will get her share. The butcher will get the share, the transport guy and the fuel levy will get their share, every other person will get their share, because don't look at an employee as such, because this person has around 30% on pay as you earn going. Yes, he goes to VAT, to the supermarket to pay VAT, meets another 16% on VAT, and depends on at what level is he paying. Perhaps he buys and go and sells again, he attracts another 16%. And that is why at the end of the day you realize for an employed person, around 46% of their pay goes back to the government. Now, if you lower this amount, how will you cushion the economy also, because there is an expenditure that has already been budgeted for? But the government is usually tricky. It gives you a lollipop and exchanges it with a sweet. Okay? The one is bigger and the other one is smaller. So at the end of the day, you're still consuming sugar, or it gives you, let me use aloe vera versus pepper. You see, it gives you this and takes through this other side. Remember, when they lower pay as you earn, they will increase another levy in a different way. So the government should consider the views of Kenyans. For example, there are some bills at the moment that are undergoing public participation, around 3 or 4 of them. How is the local mwananchi helped to understand, because there are some terms in the bills that perhaps even myself, being an elite, may not understand the clauses. So how is it disseminated? We have the Bible translated in all the vernacular languages, but we don't even have our constitution in those languages. We need to read our constitution in my vernacular language. I need to read that bill in the simplest way possible, and I understand what it is. Otherwise, I'll be fed by the propaganda on the social media, and at the end of the day, when I join those people in the social media to demonstrate, I become a bad person. But the government should give me benefit of information. Benefit of information. I should get that information. For example, there should be government advertisements on the, for example, the national station like KBC belongs to the government, and therefore we should have more of government civic education through it. They can negotiate, because I'm sure if they go to other media houses, they are a little bit expensive compared to the home, the mother of all here. So the government should promote civic education. The chiefs in the villages should be able to disseminate any government policy to the local man. We used to have that during the Jayo era. The chief barazas, where have they gone? The DO, do you know the DO of your area at the moment? Those days we used to know them. Do you know the village elder of your area? These are the people who are on government payroll, but we don't see them. They only appear when there is insecurity issues, but when there is government policies that need to be disseminated to the local mwananchi. It is not for the government. The bills are not for the government. It's for us. The constitution is not for the government. It is our constitution. If you read the preamble of the constitution, it puts the Kenyan citizen at the center stage of every government decision. So I'm expecting the president to change tact, to change tune, and change this country. Dubai is a desert. Right now is the home of every billionaire in this world. So we can change Kenya and bring it to become a new destination for all the billionaires in the world. And when they come, they bring in money.
Yes.
And they bring in investment.
Yeah.
They bring in jobs. They bring in a better living standard.
Yes.
Yes.
Indeed, you're watching the State of the Nation, which is a special coverage by Channel 1, and we shall continue to bring you up to speed with what is expected to happen in Parliament today, where the President is expected to address the bicameral Parliament. Don't go too far. Up next is the Cabinet. And right now we are focusing on Ole Ntimama. Don't go too far. Bentro Enjoy is coming to continue with this conversation. My name is Migwi.
William Ronkorua Ole Ntimama was born in 1927 in Melili area, Narok. He attended Ole Sankale Primary School in Narok, where he did Kenya African Primary Education Examination. He later joined Kahuhia Teachers Training College and was deployed to teach Kiswahili and history at his former school, then known as Government Maasai School. He also taught elsewhere in the region, even as he studied privately for his O-level examination. In 1953, he approached Kari Francis of Alliance High School to allow him to sit for the exam as a private candidate. After Alliance High School, he went back to teaching and enrolled for a diploma course in law in the United Kingdom through correspondence. He later became a district officer, a member of the African District Council, a member of the Legislative Council, and chairman of the Narok County Council. His political career started in 1974, when he was elected chairman of the Narok County Council. He ran against Justice Ole Tipis in 1978 and 1983 for the Narok North seat, but was unsuccessful both times. For his warlike utterances, Moi detained Ntimama in 1983 for 102 days. It took Tanzanian Prime Minister Edward Sokoine, a fellow Maasai, to get him released by trading him with the 1982 coup plotter Hezekiah Ochuka, who had fled to Tanzania. He was appointed chairman of various parastatals, including the National Housing Corporation, the Kenya Grain Growers Cooperative Union, and Industrial and Commercial Development Corporation. Prior to the adoption of multi-party politics in 1990s, the late Ntimama was a staunch supporter of the then ruling party KANU. During the KANU era, he was vocal against multi-party politics. In 1988, during the infamous Mlolongo Q voting system, Ntimama finally defeated Tipis and was promptly appointed Supplies and Marketing Minister. This marked the beginning of his long journey in the cabinet, where his dockets included local government, home affairs, transport and communication, and office of the president in charge of public service. Ntimama would team up with KANU stalwarts Kipkalia Kones, Nicholas Biwott and Henry Kosgei to rally the Rift Valley region against the return of pluralist politics. They formed a pro-small communities platform called Kamatusa, which stood for Kalenjin, Maasai, Turkana and Samburu, that advocated for federalism as a counter to the pro-multi-party agitation. Despite his detention in 1983, his sharp and forthright utterances continued to be subject of investigations into the next decade and beyond. However, after the advent of multi-party politics in the 90s, he decamped from KANU and joined the Democratic Party, then headed by retired President Mwai Kibaki. In January 1995, he teamed up with John Keane, another veteran politician, to give Saitoti a hard time in national and Kajiado politics. In 1996, the relationship between Ntimama and Moi started deteriorating, ostensibly after he was blamed for taking sides in a boundary dispute between his populace Purko and the Kekonyokie sections in Narok. Around this time, Moi dressed him down during a meeting at Ntulele. After that incident, his access to Moi was curtailed. Ahead of the 1997 general election, he survived stiff competition from Jackson Mwanik during the KANU nominations. In 2002, he resigned and galvanized the Maasai votes for NAC. In 2004, Kibaki appointed Ntimama Minister for Public Service. His stay in the cabinet was, however, short-lived as he was kicked out with others in the Raila Odinga group for the next year as President Kibaki purged perceived rebels from the government. The Public Service Minister was one of the 7 ministers who campaigned against the proposed constitution in the 2005 referendum that split the government down the middle. After the government lost the referendum, Kibaki sacked the entire cabinet, a first in Kenya's history, and excluded the Liberal Democratic Party rebels from the New Look cabinet. Ntimama then joined the Orange Democratic Movement ahead of the 2007 elections. He won in that election and again in 2007 on an Orange Democratic Movement party ticket. Ntimama was again appointed Minister of State for National Heritage and Culture, courtesy of being in ODM. The post suited him as a self-styled defender of the cultural values of indigenous communities. Ntimama lost the seat as Narok North Member of Parliament, which he had held for 25 years, to lawyer Moitalel Kanter in 2013. 15 years as chairman of the powerful Narok County Council and another 15 as member of parliament and minister had made Ntimama larger than life, and his word held sway in many parts of Maasai land. He retired from active politics in September 2013. In September 2016, aged 88, Ntimama passed on at his Narok home. Jackie Wambiru, The Cabinet.
Good morning and a warm welcome to this special edition. Today, all eyes being fixed at the August House, where we are expecting the third presidential State of the Nation address by President William Ruto. And of course, it is this second since actually it's the third State of the Nation address after only 2 years. And we'll be here to try and dissect what are some of the things, some of the successes, some of the challenges, and some of the plans that the government has. And of course, you know very well, being elected, he talked about the bottom-up economic transformation agenda. We will also be looking at our human rights record. We have been having issues here and there. We'll be trying to put into perspective in regards to also the foreign policy that Kenya has adopted. And also, as a Kenyan, I'm 100% sure you'll also be eagerly awaiting the president's speech at August House, that is both parliament or bicameral houses, at about 2:30. My name is Ben Troy Njoe. Many thanks for making time for being with us, and thank you indeed so much to Mike. It's a nice tag team. Now I pick up from where Mike has left, and I'll also be engaging Sami Meli, a political analyst, and also just next to him, we'll also be engaging Advocate Gibson Nyamato Gisore, who is an advocate of the High Court and also a governance expert. Gentlemen, karibuni sana.
Asante sana.
And we've been listening to what Meli and my colleague Mike have been talking about in regards to what to expect. And because you haven't had the bite of the cherry, I'm asking, what do you believe that the president will focus on? We do know very well about his better, that is the bottom-up economic transformation agenda, but which are some of the pointers that you expect the president to highlight this afternoon?
Thank you, Ben, and thank you for inviting me for this show. My expectation today is the president to be very candid and be able to come and tell Kenyans what he is going to do in the remaining 3 years. You remember that we are coming from a very heated political stance in Kenya, where we had to do away with the deputy president and install a new one. So I saw him trying to speak as if he had gotten a new lease of life. So I will expect him to pick from there and say that, the challenges we had, among other things, now we have cleared some of them. Now we are good to go. And akin to that, we'll be speaking his major programs, whereby we have seen him transform the health sector, whether it's really transforming or really working on it is upon the public to be able to be the judge. We also looking at the university, under the education. You realize the lecturers are on strike, and then the funding model was already stopped by the court was declared illegal. So you will need to speak something to that, what the plan is around education. We need to speak about things to do with the macroeconomic state in the country, whereby we are going to look at the situation where we improve business in the country. That's what I expect him to look at, especially in the bottom up, where he promised Kenyans that he's going to make sure that even the Mama Mboga and the Boda people will have an ease in doing business. So that is yet to happen. We are expecting to see that. We are expecting him to talk about the foreign policy. I think yesterday they were talking about issues foreign policy, whereby I don't think we are doing so well, because you realize we have two things under the foreign policy. We are contesting for the AU seat as a country. People always say it's Raila, but it's a country presenting its candidate. So we are all of us there. So we are expecting that to find a roadmap on how that is going to happen or where they are at the moment. We're also expecting, hopefully he should be able to address some of the kidnappings which have been happening to foreign nationals, who have, some of them have come to seek refuge in Kenya, some of them have come who have been invited for events, and then they get kidnapped and then be taken back to their countries. So that is, I think, something you should be able to address. Then there is the 16 days of femicide, which, of course, in Kenya we have been victims, because we have lost a lot of young women and even mothers around the country. This being the era where we are celebrating the 16 days, we expect him to speak something to that. I don't know whether the 2027 preparations for AFCON will also feature in his speech, because we need to be ready from now. And we maybe want to see even one of the stadiums ready, so that we don't keep hosting our matches internationally, which we end up losing or not doing so well. So it's not a good show for a country of our stature to not have a FIFA-approved stadium where we can be able to play our matches. I also expect him to speak something to issues governance, which is very key, really, because we expect, I think we saw Uhuru in one of his State of the Nation unleash a list of people who are given to EACC, and then we saw quite a number of people, of course, being... there is the issue about the Catholic bishops, the petition they gave to the president, that we've not seen anybody being jailed for grand corruption. If there is any, we should be told. We expect him to also speak around those areas, because monies are being lost. There is the issue of governance in terms of division of revenue, which is also something the counties are complaining they don't have any money. There is the issue of the 20 billion they are still arguing about, whether it should be 400 or 380 by government and 400 by the... So we expect him to speak to that, so that we can be able to find some sort of consensus. And because counties are a critical sector in governance in this country. So if we can be able to set the tone on those things, then we can be able to know, especially on our exports. We do realize we also have also gone back. He should be able to tell us what is his plan with the export promotion zones to ensure that we export more, so that we can even stabilize the dollar. So From where I sit, those are some of the things he should be able to highlight. But we can only wait and see what he has in store for us.
It's a good thing that you've highlighted them, and we'll be breaking them down one by one. This is a scorecard of 2 years, the third State of the Address that he is making. Meli, you have been also a politician. You have vied in Cherangani. And I'm quite sure something that is, he might not highlight it, but it's in Kenyans' minds, because there has been the politics surrounding state capture by parliament. What do you think the president will talk in terms of governance? And we saw what happened during the Gen Z protest. Parliament are saying this, Kenyans are saying this, the president is saying this.
What I expect is the voice of government should always be one. Because we are one unified government of Kenya. We don't have one government of National Assembly, another government elsewhere. So we have one unified government of Kenya, and the State of Nation address is given by the president, and he will touch on the 3 arms of government and their achievements. So being the head of state, he has a mandate to give us a scorecard of every arm of government, and especially his part where we have the executive arm of government. And one thing, I don't like the term state capture, because, you know, government of Kenya in the constitution is made up of 3 arms, which is the legislature, executive, and judiciary. And if these arms don't work in sync, I don't mean that they should listen to each other all the time, but you know, the legislative arm of government,
actually they should be independent.
They should be independent of each other, but at the same time working towards one goal, because there is the apex where the development of this country is put as a priority. So I'm expecting him to remind members of parliament about some bills that are in parliament that perhaps are critical in the execution of the national government programs. I'm expecting him also to address perhaps the reshuffle of the PSS. He has done the reshuffle of the cabinet secretaries. I would hear in the news the other day that there would be a reshuffle of the principal secretaries. And I'd expect, you expect him to remind Parliament that there will be a list coming for approval. You know, this State of Nation address is not just addressed to the Kenyan public, it's also a state of address to the National Assembly, where they do the checks and balances of the government activities. So we expect him also to tell us about the natural disasters that are there in this country. I don't know why it has taken too long to declare cancer a national disaster. Yet it is clearing most of our people at the moment. And what is going to do...
Okay, just a minute. Gibson, Meli has mentioned something in regards to governance, and I think this is his first time, his first speech since he introduced the broad-based government. You think the president is going to be speaking in regards to maybe the successes that the broad-based government has brought, and one thing he has mentioned is national unity.
Yes, that of course is going to... The president is a very keen person, so any small or any step towards achieving his goal, he will of course have to mention it. That is in terms of what the broad-based government has been able to put in place. The kind of robust, I think they had a tax revenue conference, I think, was it in Status or somewhere, where Mbadi was, of course, giving a basis of what they plan to do, where they talked of reducing of VAT, they talked of a raft of measures. So those are some of the things which will be able to feature prominently in his speech. Of course, we expect something to do with energy, because energy is also a very big component in this country, whereby we have a very costly electricity, some things to do with the transmission lines, which apparently Adani is also one of the players. So he will try to speak to that, how that is going to improve or play into the big game of reduction of the tariffs, especially from KPLC. So we also expect something. He needs to speak about transport, which is also a very critical aspect in terms of improving the roads, especially our roads are really doing badly, and I think he acknowledged in one of the Sundays when he was in charge, that we need to improve our roads, because especially around Nairobi and even up country, given that we had a season of rains, they are really battered. So we need to expect him to speak to what arrangements he had with the CS Chirchir in terms of improving of the road infrastructure, even the airport infrastructure. So some of those things which play to the day-to-day running of government or enjoyment of Kenyans or ease of doing business, those are the things he should be able to speak concretely on. And we also expect him to highlight some of the plans he has, especially within the region, around agriculture. I hope he speaks something to that, because I just was reading a report that Tanzania is now the third largest exporter in the African continent, something it was not near. So it's because of the plans they have put in place. They're exporting a lot of food products. They're third behind South Africa and Ivory Coast. Ivory Coast does majorly export cocoa. But then South Africa exports everything. And then now we have Tanzania. Wow. I mean, that is a sport we should be enjoying, but we are not.
And we know very
anywhere
well
near.
that Rwanda is also doing very well in the East African region.
Yes,
Kenya
yes, in their own
has been
scale.
the powerhouse.
We were the powerhouse. Now our sport is being taken. So those are some of the things we expect him to lay. What exactly plan he has with agriculture. We are told that our tea is stuck at the ports.
Yeah.
It's not being sold. Why? And that could have increased our margin for exports. So those are some of the things we expect him to highlight, because they speak to the local mwananchi who is down there and which is part of his bottom-up economic improvement.
Meli, the Swahili say that mgala muwe na haki umpe, or give credit where it's due. The president will also highlight some of his successes, and we've heard his speeches. He's talking about jobs abroad. He also talks about agriculture, how we've been able to even bring the cost of flour down. He's also talking about the SHA as well. Which are some of these key highlights of successes that he can point out in the 2 years that has been president?
Yes, I know one. He wants to ride on the affordable housing projects. Yeah. I think that is one of his biggest achievement at the moment, and his biggest plan that he had with affordable housing. You remember President Uhuru Kenyatta went into infrastructure full board, and I can see him going into affordable housing also full board. So I'm expecting him to tell us about what he has achieved, as you have said, the inflation coming from 9% to 2%. But that inflation at the moment is just in books. Kenyans cannot feel it. We want that felt at the lower level, even though when he took over, the fuel was so high. Right now, it has come down up to an average of 180 shillings a litre for petrol, and the other kerosene and the others are cheaper. You can see when he took over, 6 kg gas cylinder was going at 1,600. Right now, 950 to 1,000. The 13 kg cylinder was retailing at around 3,100. At the moment, you can get it at 2,100, 2,200. Others are selling up to 2,500, depending on where you buy it from.
But some pundits would argue that in terms of the fuel prices, they are much dictated by the international market prices as well.
Yes, remember what is going on around the world, including even the Israeli war, the Ukraine war, the Russian war. They have to influence, because that's a route where most of these products come through. And therefore, we cannot ignore that it is not affecting us. It affects even the circulation of the dollar. And so if the fuel is not in so much the circulation, also the dollar is also not in so much circulation, and therefore makes it expensive. Though regionally, if you look at, I went and fueled at some time in Kampala last year, and I realized even their fuel is a little bit higher by 2 shillings. Yes, I got a full tank at around 200,000 Ugandan shillings, so you can imagine. If I convert that, they were higher by around 2 shillings. So that tells you it is the regional war or the world wars that are going on up there are affecting us. It is even affecting the flour, the wheat flour from coming. Remember, the other day we said that Ukraine and Russia perhaps are the ones that supply most of the wheat in the region. And therefore, they really affect the flow of that, I mean, the prices if we don't get them. Remember, supply and demand. If the supply is low, I mean, if the demand is low, then, and the supply is too high, the prices have to come down. But when the supply is low, and therefore it means the demand is high, isn't it? Yes. And therefore the prices go high. We are looking at a time, because also we are praying that the Trump administration will help reduce these other wars, because you can't ignore America in whatever is going on around the world. They have a lot of influence on it, and coming in, we might expect some prices. But coming back to what we are saying, we want also the president to tell us about the score sheet of corruption, as Wakili has just rightfully put it. We are told that by money laundering, we are losing 129 billion a year that is leaving this country legally. That should be tamed, because that is money that is tax-free and leaving this country. We want the investors or the people who have money in this country to invest in this country, and the more they invest in this country, the more we create jobs, and the more jobs we have, the lesser crime rate we have, the poverty levels also come down, and Kenyans can afford a living. It is so immoral for a country to export its youth. The youth, the power, the people we have done harambes for to study. Then we send them to a foreign country to work. They should work for us here. They should be given chances to work here. And as I said in the first part, we need Kenyan government to reduce on those royalties the foreign companies are paying. They reduce them so that they bring in more of manufacturing industries into the country. Our country has more of primary industries. We need more of secondary industries, and that is how our country will grow. Reduce those ones so that when they come in, and I said the government is the biggest landlord, it should give incentives to foreign government, to foreign companies to come into the country, invest here, employ our youth, and when the products leave the country, we earn foreign exchange. Number two, the youth that are working in those companies pay the taxes as pay as you earn. They are also able to afford the other 16% VAT when they go to the supermarkets. Nowadays, Kenyans don't even shop in the supermarkets. They go into wholesale. They pull up. They pull together. You see, Troy, I want 5 kg of sugar. Wakili here wants another 6 kg. We pull together, we buy a bag, and we share. That is how the survival people are doing. If you go with your 10 shillings nowadays, you can't buy sukuma wiki with 10 shillings. If you buy sukuma wiki with 10 shillings, it will not even feed one person. So, we need more money in circulation. And the president being the driver, you see, most of the time, the driver takes the responsibility of the vehicle. At the moment, the driver in charge is William Samoei Arap Ruto, Daktari. He is the one in charge. He should tell us that at this speed we are comfortable. And that is why we want his scorecard today. If I were to rate him today out of 10, I would give him a 4. Out of 10. Not yet.
Not yet. Not even halfway. Let's see what Wakili has to say, because one, as Meli rightly put it, is that inflation, yes, we've been told that inflation has come down from about 9 points to about 2 points. And for that, a lot of Kenyans want to feel that effect. If inflation is coming down, then we also need to feel that effect. I would like you to speak about the inflation and what we expect the head of state also to be pointing out. Because if the economy improves very well, we bring the inflation down.
Yes, you see, I'm not a real economist to speak on
the figures,
on the figures, but
yeah.
What I know, the little I know, is that inflation is a two-way sword. If it comes down too low, then it also affects the market. If it's too high, then it also affects it. So it should be managed. So the only comfortable inflation we should be talking about is to do with 5. So if we have come down to 2, then something needs to be done to raise it, so that we are at an equilibrium kind of set. But I mean, for you to talk about reduction of inflation, I mean, maybe for example, is that there is money which is in large supply, and that affects the position of our money against the dollar. So that does not help our exports. So we need to depend on exports to stabilize the dollar, so that, because we talk about oil, that is, we use dollars to buy it. So if we talk about Kenya is actually a net importer. So that really affects the economy in a big way. So we need to have our economists to also be able to put in measures which should be able to safeguard the inflation or control inflation in a very positive way. So that we don't either go negative or to also have it go so high, so that we can be able to manage our macroeconomic scales. Having said that, I also want to say that if we look at, I want to support what Meli has said in terms of export of labor. It's really not a very good thing. We need to look around and be able to see how can we be able to pull investors into this country. Most of our investors have fled to Tanzania, and Tanzania is improving greatly. So some of these things, once we put in proper measures in terms of reduction of VAT which is charged, I'm not sure about royalties, which Meli talked about, because royalties talks about the people who are doing the mining, and I think that we need to look at, because royalties is where we lose a lot of money. I think there are a lot of reports by the World Bank that African countries lose money in terms of royalties. We saw the late Magufuli, when he came in, he really pushed international companies which were exporting gold from their country, and they were paying as little as a kiosk operator in Tanzania. So when you get your minerals to leave, and then some of the agreements which these people have signed allowed them to pay very little royalties, and they even don't declare their profits. So they end up getting all the money and taking all your resources, and then you continue remaining poor. So that is, we need a proper framework in terms of our mineral wealth, and then we'll be able to know how much are we getting from gold, how much are we getting from the other minerals, so that we can be able to gauge and see how to reverse wherever we are losing, and how to improve where we are not doing so well. So that is something else. But in terms of improvement of business, to attract foreign investors, you need to improve the ease of doing business. There is the World Bank ease of doing business. We have never improved. I think during Uhuru, we were seeing reports where we had improved to around position 50 or thereabout. We need to see that improve, and that's what majorly attracts foreign investors to put their money in. There are also private efforts of improvement, of looking for PPPs. We have seen Adani, we are not sure any other investors who are being pulled around, but we need a proper framework for PPPs. The current PPP framework we have can be abused by anybody, either the investor or even the government, if it wants to attract somebody who has very stringent conditions. So we need to have a relook at the PPP Act, so that we can make it in compliance with the Constitution, because where I sit, I feel it does not help Kenyans and does not comply with the Constitution. Once we align it, and the World Bank has declared that they need to come and help in terms of framing of so that we can be able to have a win-win situation, not where we have a win-lose situation, so that the investor gets more than what the Kenyans get.
All right, and we will be looking at that a little bit more deeper when we come back, and also we will be looking at matters infrastructure. We know very well one of his marquee project is the affordable housing projects. We will be looking at that, and also how is our human rights record? We'll be looking at that. Remember, we're watching KBC, State of the Nation Address, but we expect from the head of state later on in the afternoon.
funga hiyo mdomo yako kubwa.
Look here, Kemunto. As I said, we have work to do. So please, excuse us.
Teacher is a teacher in order calling us low lives. Me low lives.
Can you stop interrupting my line of presentation?
Sir, what is that you're taking that is making you frown?
No, this is chamomile tea with a pinch of turmeric, cardamom and cinnamon.
All of you are rusas, I'm telling you. Rusas nyinyi wote.
Nimekwambia kuwa wazazi wangu wanataka kunioza cha lazima. Unasemaje?
Ni dhihirisho kuwa hutaki chochote kutoka kwao.
Rama! Rama!
Chumbani mwako unamolala wewe mwenyewe, eh? Utakata vipi wewe Simui hata kama hujamuoa? Watu watakuelewa vipi?
Rama, hebu karibia hapa.
Unakumbuka siku fulani ambayo ulikuja ukapata jamaa?
We. Kama cherehani, eh? Fiata hilo domo lako wewe. Mwenyekiti na katibu wake. Katika masuala ya umbea tu.
You're watching the State of the Nation special coverage where we're expecting the head of state to be addressing the nation from 2:30 there on his third State of the Nation and his government's second year's working scorecard. And I'm joined here by two analysts who are also specialists in their own field. We have Sami Meli and we also have Gibson Gisore, who is an advocate of the High Court. Both are also governance experts. And we were, before the break, we were looking at some of the things that the head of state has been able to maybe call them the marquee projects. And one of them is the affordable housing project. So let me sample what my panelists have to say here. Sami Meli, I'm looking at the affordable housing project, which actually I would say it started with resistance, court cases, but the courts gave the green light that the project is good. But from what we've heard is that there's more money than the houses that we can be, the capacity to build those houses. And I'm quite sure the president is going to be also talking about one of his key projects, the affordable housing project.
Yeah, the affordable housing project is a good project. The way it was introduced is where perhaps there is a problem because if you because actually the government does an assessment, need assessment. Among the three basic human needs, what do we need? We need food, shelter, and clothing. The government addressed the food part by giving incentives to farmers by lowering the cost of fertilizer, the cost of seeds, and ensuring that there is enough production of the same. Good. That's a scorecard. We have seen that through the reduction of the flour, the unga in our shops. Good. We come to the second one, the need. That is housing.
Yes.
Most of our urban settings, because if you look at the housing program, they are mainly done in urban centers. I've not seen one in a rural setting, but I'm seeing them all. If you go to Athi River, it's within Athi River town. If you come to Nairobi, it's within Nairobi city.
Yes.
If you go to Machakos, it's within Machakos.
Yes.
So the need of housing is there in our cities and our towns because of the mushrooming slums. The government perhaps thought it wise, or the Kenya Kwanza government thought it wise, that if we were to get affordable houses for these people, instead of living on a rental house, that doesn't belong to you. You are a civil servant working in Nairobi county government, for example. You are retiring at the age of 60. In your working years, by the time you retire, what do you own that you'll say it's yours? Most of our civil servants retire with rural homes that are dilapidated, or they get their pension. Once they get home, when they retire at 60, that's when they think of building new houses that end up even being incomplete by the time of their demise, because perhaps they went to an ambitious plan, and this.
But
so
in as much as
perhaps,
that, Meli, we
yes.
also really need to point out some of the loopholes, because at the end of the day, you'll find me at 60 years, but I still haven't found my house. Okay, so I'm looking at the objectivity in regards to the challenges surrounding the affordable housing, because if at all these challenges are not looked into now, we'll not be talking about affordable projects in the next 20, 30 years.
But I think our courts have already streamlined the whole thing. Before we used to, it will be a mandatory to pay 15%. Right now you start with 0%, and at the end of the day, you pay as you live in it. You pay as you occupy the house, and pay in a, said rent to own basis. Now that has been streamlined. When they say that there is more money than that, is also a planning issue. There is an issue with planning. Did this government plan to the end? To the very end? Supposing we have an overproduction of our contribution of this money, what do we do with the money? Because we don't expect it, our government to spend it the way it's spending our taxes. No, that is for housing. There are more contractors in this country. If you go to the National Construction Authority, you will find over 250,000 contractors. Simple thing, advertise more, build more, because there is money. That is what the government should be doing. If you hear the other day, there was a rumor of the Auditor General's report that there are some money that has not been accounted for the affordable housing. That's again a challenge. What confidence do you give the people, the contributors, the workers whose salaries are being deducted? And that is now transparency in everything. But I think they have achieved that by making sure that Boma Yangu app is available for every Kenyan who has data to enter in. Using your ID, set a password, you are able to see even the projects that are ongoing. Unfortunately, there is very little public civic education. Civic education is the most important component of any government project. The society should know what is going on. I'm sure there are people living in Pangani and they don't know that there's an affordable housing project in Pangani. The other day you had the MP of Ruiru saying that he doesn't know that there's affordable housing in Ruiru, but I can see it on the highway while passing. And it is, so label them, let them be well labeled that this is the affordable housing project, so that the people, the community around it, the people around the vicinity of such affordable housing project are aware. We have seen some being launched in Turkana County, a place where people used to live in manyatas and the old traditional structures. The government should educate the people. How do I get in? The way they educate us to vote, the way they make sure that in case there's anything they want from us, they make sure that we get it. They should educate us. Let us know these are the procedures of adopting a house or owning a house in this country. Because if you were to make some things unreachable, because the other time you could hear some panelists saying there's no internet in some areas, how can my grandmother go to Boma Yangu and see it? But we have learned young people who can easily go through it. But if they don't know how to access it, it becomes an issue. The other day they were teaching us how to stand in lines from the time you leave your house, what you carry at the voting station. Then after the voting, they are done, they are put in leadership. They don't want us to know what is going on. Public participation should be there. Public information should be there. And as I said, there are government leaders from the village elder or the Nyumba Kumi elder. I don't know whether Nyumba Kumi are still there, but there is village elder, there's an assistant chief, there's a chief, there is an assistant deputy county commissioner. We have county commissioners. What is their work in the villages?
Okay.
Is it only security? They should disseminate government policies to the people.
Okay.
Yes.
Just a minute. My colleague Ed Kabasa is at Parliament buildings, and now he joins us with a brief of exactly just a feel of what is currently happening. It's going to be a hive of activities, and I believe it is, because both houses will be at the National Assembly, where the head of state is expected to give his State of the Nation address. Good morning, Kabasa. Okay. We do apologize for that sound technical hitch, but we will be getting back to Kabasa to tell us just what exactly is happening in Parliament as soon as that is rectified. And just in case you joined us, just in time for what we are looking at and what we expect in the afternoon, where the head of state is expected to make his third State of the Nation address and his scorecard after 2 years. Sami Meli, Gibson Gisore. Gibson, back to what exactly we were talking about before we crossed over to Parliament in terms of the affordable housing. There's a project that is very dear to the president and to the Kenya Kwanza government. It's a train that has already left the station. Despite the many challenges that had already dogged it, they were cleared by the courts, and now the project is underway. But of course, we have to raise the concerns that are there. Yes, indeed, as also Meli has pointed out, is we are having more money than we can be able to build those houses. And we also need to see tenants. They already completed projects.
Yes. I think let me start by...
Or owners, not tenants.
Yes, let me start by the part of owning. You see, it's 2 years. We need to...
Kindly apologies. Okay. Just hold it. Let's cross over to Parliament. Kabasa. Ed Kabasa.
Good morning, Troy. Actually, it has just reduced a couple of minutes ago. For by the President, time address sitting of Parliament, both the National Assembly. State of the Nation address, of course, it is provided for by the Constitution. The head of state is going to address issues affecting the country, and it is going to listen to the arrangements that have been put in place by the government to address issues such as food security, national security. We have the affordable housing, of course, which you are just talking about. When he last addressed this joint sitting of Parliament, the head of state did indicate that the affordable housing is an ambitious project that is going to ensure that millions of people have a place to call home. It did also talk about the need for the country to cut on spending and also the need for Kenya to pay back the loans. If you can remember very well, he did indicate when he addressed this house the last time, that is in November 2023, that there was some $300 million worth to be paid back in installments. And 2024 November, a lot has happened since then. You remember that in June the country did experience a situation like had never been seen before, where the president had to recall the finance bill. Of course, the Treasury and the legislature is working on another document. We do expect to get an update as to where that has reached. A lot to talk about. Farming. The last time he did address the joint sitting, he talked about the need to lower the cost of production, need to lower the cost of farm inputs. Subsidized fertilizer has been distributed across the country. What is the status of that? So just a quick recap. What will happen. The president will arrive at the parliament buildings. There will be a guard of honor that will be mounted, and he will inspect it. After that, there will be the national anthem, which will be sung, and then the president will make his way through the ministers' gate. This where we are standing, just to my right here. The president will access Parliament through that gate. Of course, it is not the first time that he is coming to Parliament. He has done so a couple of times back when he was the deputy president or when he was the member of Parliament. But this is a ceremonial event that he is going to be leading. So he's going to be accessing Parliament through that. Arrangements have been put in place to ensure a smooth process. And after that, he will go to the Senate side, and after that, he will go to the National Assembly chambers, where he will find the members of both National Assembly and the Senate seated, ready to hear that address to the country, Troy.
And maybe, Kabasa, if you can hear me, our members already starting to troop in. We can see security is quite heightened. Are members already starting to stream in?
Yes, certainly. What is happening, the arrangement is the members are dropped and the vehicles are parked elsewhere. So a lot of activity is already underway. A number of committees are sitting, and the Energy Cabinet Secretary is at this moment meeting a committee. Questions are being fielded to Opiyo Wandayi, and there are also other committees that are sitting. So Parliament is always a beehive of activity, considering the amount of business that is transacted within these pressings. But because of the rain, not so much is happening outside, but within the blocks, there is a lot happening.
And just a quick one, from some of the pictures that we have just seen, is that security is top-notch, as we have seen lorries and some of the roads have actually been closed.
Yes. Normally when the president or a special guest is coming to Parliament, security has to be heightened. It is a normal practice. It is something that I'm sure most Kenyans are used to. Just in front of me is the Parliament Road. That road has been locked. No one is supposed to or allowed to access that particular area unless you have business here. Arambe Avenue, which is to my right, movement has also been controlled. So security, as you said, has been heightened. And because it's normal that when you have such an event, then there has to be an environment to enable it to happen.
Thank you very much. That is one of our editors, Ed Kabasa, and was also part of the Bunge team, just taking us through what we do expect and what he has already been able to gather there. And as he says, that work is still ongoing. Some members of Parliament have already trooped in, and at the Senate, the Energy Committee is actually having a sitting. So it's work as usual until when it's time for the head of state to be actually addressing them at about 2:30. Thank you indeed so much, Ed Kabasa, for that report. And it now brings us back to studio, where I have Sami Meli, and also I also have Advocate Gibson Gisore. And we were looking, before we crossed over to Parliament, Gibson, we were looking at the affordable project, which is one of the maybe the pillars of the bottom-up economic transformation agenda, despite the fact that it had a lot of teething problems that even ended up in court. We are also doing the checks and balances. You know, we're talking about a lot of money that we cannot actually build those houses, but we have plenty of it, plenty of money, but the capacity to do that has been challenged.
Yes, the challenge, I think the major challenge has been the sensitization of the public. That is one. And then the secondly is the capacity uptake on the part of government and the contractors to utilize those monies effectively to give Kenyan houses. Secondly, it's affordable housing. I don't think it's very affordable for Mama Mboga and for boda people, because that, given that somebody has got to raise at least a 10% first before he can be able to access the house, then he can now be able to pay while he's inside. So if you look at some of those issues, we do realize that we have a lot of teething problems which still should have been should have been surpassed by now, because that is a project it didn't start with this current government, it started with the Uhuru government. This government only decided to change the strategy around. And when you change the strategy around for a project which is already ongoing, then it should be able to kickstart immediately and be able to see some progress. It's 2 years since the government took over power. We should be seeing the first set of people enjoying the affordable housing as owners, not tenants, as owners of these houses. And then we can be able to, you should actually be using that as a marketing strategy that, you know, these are boda people, these are Mama Mboga people in Kitui who have been able to contribute, and they have been able to access these houses. Then Kenyans will be able to believe, because it's easy to believe something you have seen. Some of the other challenges is that the issue of uptake of the money is the challenge whereby the investors are not properly sensitized, or the contractors have not been engaged full scale, so that they can be able to utilize whatever monies Kenyans are contributing. There was a plan to have this rolled out to the constituencies, but I don't think that has really taken off well. Once that is up and running, then you can be able to see affordable housing being done even in the constituencies. Then that money will be properly utilized. For purposes of equity, we need to see that rolled out across the country, because it's everybody, it's every Kenyan worker who is contributing, and other business people across the country. So you need to have some sort of guarantee that once, because if I'm contributing and I'm told the only affordable housing is in Nairobi and in Embu and in Kakamega, places which I don't stay, then it means I'm going to be disadvantaged in terms of my contribution, which I'm not going to get a house which is near me where I can be able to own one which is near me. So that should be able to be looked at, hence the reason where I'm advocating that they need to have measures that these houses be scaled out across the country. So that every Kenyan can be able to get. There are some pockets of towns which these houses have been launched, but they're not enough. It should be to every constituency, as the plan was initially. So that can be able to sort out the housing glut, that can be able to sort out the issue of bad houses or slums coming up. And then there should be also on the other side a very clear plan on how to eliminate the slums. You can be doing affordable housing, but you don't expect people in the slums to move from the slums to the affordable housing. You need to have a clear plan to help them at source. Where we had a Kibera upgrade program, I don't know where that went. That should be able to be kick-started, so that the people in Kibera can also be able to live within the environs. You remember the kids' school there, the jobs are around there. They are used to the place, so it's only better that you build them houses there rather than building houses in Eastlands and telling them you move to Eastlands. Because there are also people in Eastlands who want to benefit from their housing. So we need to do it both ways, so that we can be able to scale it at different levels, so that all Kenyans can be able to be fitted into this program, and to be in compliance with the bottom-up economic development.
And Melly, gentlemen, let's look at the one thing that has really been nagging this country, and that is why when we just look 10, 5, 20 years ago, what we have been piling on is debt, and we crossed the red line of 10 trillion, and we have to service that loan. We service the loan with almost half of what we get every year. This is something that the head of state is also likely to also touch on before we also look at corruption.
Yeah, foreign debt is actually the elephant in the room. If I look at the last finance bill, it was said we collect 2.2 trillion. we take 1.1 trillion to pay foreign debts. We are left with 1.1 trillion and other ones to collect from Kenyans. So 1.1 trillion that has already been collected to pay recurrent expenditures. For example, let's take now recurrent expenditures at 700 billion. These are salaries and remunerations. Then we are left with 400 billion to share between the national government and the county government. This is the elephant in the room. And I think the president should bite the bullet. The government of Kenya should bite the bullet and decide and say, this one, we will not go for it again. And the easier route to tame foreign debt is curb corruption, reduce government expenditures, unnecessary allowances. For example, why would somebody sit on an allowance, for example, on a job that is already employed? He has a salary on the same, then gets an allowance for the same. Why would I buy you a car to go run around with a police siren, wasting fuel, running around the city, making noise at the same time? That's again an issue to do with the climate and the pollution. It doesn't make sense. I don't think the normal Kenyans where they are, the common Kenyans where they are given such privileges. We have given you a big job, buy a good car for yourself and go to work. We can't service these vehicles all the time. All of them are fuel guzzlers. If one member of parliament or one, let's take the leader of the leader of majority in the Senate, for example, would have one chase car in front, another one behind, and his own. Those are 3 vehicles, and all of them are guzzlers. Do you think that is tenable, especially when we are talking about this? We should walk the talk. Walk the talk. Don't preach water and take wine. Preach water, take water. Preach wine, take wine. Let us know that you have said it is expensive, and therefore all of us should fasten our belts and tighten our expenditures. And at the end of the day, we'll get ourselves out of this. Remember in the 90s when IMF refused. Actually, in the 90s, even Chinese loans were not there. So, Mzee Moi only used to depend, President Moi only used to depend on either IMF or our own revenue,
so even our own
World Bank.
Yes.
There was a time he was given total blackout. And therefore, he ran for almost 4 or 5 years without funding from IMF. We can do that. We mustn't go that. But by taming also our appetite for free things, our appetite for joyriding in government, in the hard-earned cash from the people of Kenya. So these vehicles branded GK, I'm expecting only the president and the deputy president perhaps, and the Senate speaker and the Chief Justice perhaps, and the rest of us. Let's drive our normal vehicles, what you can afford. Because you can't tell me you are, and at the end of the day, you also still want, what do we call this? The fuel expenses, the one, mileage. Some exaggerate even the mileages to earn from that. And I think it all comes up back to us, to the moral fabric. As Omondi put it here, our moral fabric in this country is in tatters. It is no longer even supposed to be called moral. It is actually immoral. Every Kenyan, wherever they are just missing an opportunity to loot. We are being looted by our leaders. We are looting even, I saw a truck that overturned the other day carrying bales of unga. People would come, instead of checking the driver's welfare and safeguarding the goods of that innocent citizen, they looted. You would see somebody carrying bales of unga into a Prado, carrying bales of unga into a guzzler, another guzzler. Everybody is a looter. Let's come back to the moral fabric of this country. It's only that the opportunity they don't have. And I think every 5 years, the circle of every 5 years, we choose who to loot for us. We need workers, people who have the interest of the country at heart, people who would push this country forward, looking at the next generation of our leadership, looking at our children. If we loot everything, will our children have anything remaining? Will our children end up paying our luxuries? Because the debts we are paying at the moment are some other governments' luxuries before.
Yeah.
There are people who are at home who looted and nobody followed them. Bentoy, if I know that your salary is 16,000, but at the end of the day, you have a 7-story building going on in your area.
That's a red flag.
That's a red flag already. And Kenyans know who is stealing. It's only that they don't want to say. They know who is a thief. In fact, they praise that thief. And the next coming election, 2027, they'll elect that thief to go and represent them. How can goats elect a hyena to go and lead them? Of course, at the end of the day, they lose even their own kids
yes.
to the hyena.
Yeah, Wakili, I would like to also touch on matters corruption, because as even the church pointed out a couple of days, is that we are not seeing heads roll. We are not seeing those big corruption cases being concluded. And even as we speak, in the last 2 years of the Kenya Kwanza government, we haven't seen many corruption cases come to fruition.
Yes, I think, I don't know whether they are sticking to the main statement which was made by one of the top officials, that we never promised anybody we are fighting corruption. Our manifesto never said we are fighting corruption. But you see, under governance, it's very important and it's imperative as a nation we have a serious stance against corruption. Because corruption, it's the future of your kids, it's your tomorrow, it's your everything, it's your development. It also acts as a disincentive for those hard-working Kenyans to even work hard, because we work hard and yet people are stealing on the side. Whatever you are supposed to be working out for is already been stolen. We cannot motivate our kids that go to school, work hard, and then get a job, because that job is already stolen. The only job you can get is go work in Saudi. I mean, after studying, you have your degree, you go become a watchman. I mean, you don't need a degree to be a watchman. So those are some of the things we are looking at. The government should be able to do some serious soul searching and be able to inspire Kenyans. Government should be a symbol of national unity. When government speaks, people should be able to respect. But now, when government speaks and the person speaking is believed to be the most corrupt, then, you know, it acts as a disincentive for everybody to actually even consider whatever they are saying. So government must be able to instill discipline, especially in its officials, to ensure that when they speak, people can be able to see them as clean as somebody's wife, who, as the saying goes. So we need to have very clear strategies of tackling corruption. First, as the Catholic bishop said, we have not seen any big heads roll. In these 2 years, you know, we have not seen anybody being charged for corruption or having their heads roll. We are having a lot of issues, companies going down, money goes missing, money having been squandered, people cannot be able to account for some monies. Some governors are believed to be taking close to a billion to foreign lands, and they come back and then they are celebrated. So what are we doing as Kenyans? A lot of money is being lost through investing in Dubai, buying flats in Dubai and Cape Town and other capitals of the world, which people have worked to ensure that their systems work. We're killing ours so that we invest in other places. So those are some of the things I think as the president should be able to rein in and to ensure that his government is considered to be a government which is fighting corruption.
And let's also look at cutting down. I remember after the Gen Z protest, the head of state had a raft of measures to also cap and cut down spending. The CASs, he said that that is a done deal, that we will not be having any CASs. He's going to reduce a number of his advisors, and he's going to be observing a lean government. How far are we since the Gen Z protest in actualizing that? Because I believe when the head of state said that these are measures that can be used to bring down the expenditure of this country, I think he really knows that it would have brought up.
Thank you, Ben. I think the president needs to walk the talk. If he says that he has reduced the number of his advisors, we need to also be given a separate report to say how much we have saved out of that move. If we have not saved anything, then we just only removed some few people, then it doesn't make sense. So we actually he needs to tell us that out of cutting the number of advisors, if they were 10, I reduced them to 4, and this is the much we have saved, then that makes sense. We will know that we are making progress on that particular end. CSS really cannot be smooth because CSS were just sitting out their time out because the court had declared twice that they want constitutional seats. So even the ones who maintained to the very end, it was because of a court order. They got conservatory orders to sit out their term. And that when it lapsed, there was no any other way or any other legal mechanism we could be able to bring the CSS seat back. So we have seen even the president has actually taken cue that some of the people he appointed have since been appointed in other boards of government, and that clearly tells you that that seat is not going to come back because it's unconstitutional. And we commend the president for actually acknowledging that because that is a very big statement in itself. So we also want to see a situation whereby the spending, especially with members of parliament, are like parliament, the speaker of parliament telling members of parliament to use actually the SGR to go to Mombasa for the East African parliamentary games. That's a big statement. Already the SGR is making losses. So money from parliament for those members, especially the executive and the premier seats, they should be utilized, and maybe they can be able to increase whatever they have lost in terms of revenue from ordinary Kenyans who cannot afford some of their prices, which are really very steep, because I think they were increased they were increased twice, and that has led to Kenyans shunning and going back to the buses, which was something we wanted to move away from. So those are some of the things we expect to see, and some other cutting of largesse in government to also demonstrate how much we have saved.
All right. Thank you indeed so much, Gibson Gisore. Sami Meli, my director, informs me that we also have to give the Swahili desk the baton, but we'll be back immediately after lunch, just before the head of state gives his presidential address. My name is Bentro Njue, Sami Meli, and also Gibson Gisore, advocate of the High Court and also governance expert. Thank you so much indeed for watching.
On KBC Channel 1, we are a TV station like no other. Get a taste of the best in entertainment.
Yes, indeed.
Feel the passion.
Will you promise me?
I swear that you will never lose me. I can't get married to you.
I'm sure you knew about it. That's why you're making fun of me.
Experience the drama.
Get out.
Who is the man in this one?
And the laughter.
Hii wigi umevaa kichwani. Sisi wakati tulikuwa tunapishwa tunapewa mheshimiwa.
Move to the beat.
We are live from Broadcasting House.
And get informed on the latest happenings. KBC Channel 1.
Wow. Yeah!
We are the full package.
Oh, yes.
And Kenya's watching.
Thank you very much for joining us.
The young generation awakens on Y254, the leading youth TV station in Kenya. We treat you to current affairs, entrepreneurship, health, and human interest conversations.
It's art, it's culture.
Movies, gossip and trends, sports, drama.
We bring you a vibe like no other, straight to your living room.
To keep you informed, inspired, entertained, and most of all, refreshed.
We are such a vibe.
Y254. Imagine.
Agatha, ebufunga hiyo mdomo yako kubwa.
Look here, Kemundo. As I said, we have work to do. So please, excuse us.
Teacher is a teacher in order calling us low lives. Me low lives.
Can you stop interrupting my line of presentation?
Sir, what is that you're taking that is making you frown?
No, this is chamomile tea with a pinch of turmeric, cardamom and cinnamon.
All of you are rusas, I'm telling you. Rusas nyinyi wote.
Moja katika jinsi ya kuweza kujibiwa dua za Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala ni kwa kufanya rakaa mbili na kusoma dua. Ukiwa na haja yote, jambo lolote unalitaka katika mambo yako ya kidini na dunia na akhera, nenda shika udhu, swala ya suna au rakaa mbili au swala ya faradhi, unakuwa karibu kiwa na Allah subhanahu.
Tulikuwa tumekaa tu nyumbani na mama hapo tunatulia.
Mamako?
Mamako? Si mamangu, manzi yangu.
Nani?
Manzi yangu.
Mke nasikia umeoa mwisho ni mdogo kushinda huyo. Sasa siwe ndio umemwandisha hiyo tabia?
I can do it. Hata wazazi.